Hey people of the VC, it's Andy, a cloudy milder. What are we doing here today? This is it's kind of a mixture video, really, as the title suggests. It's it's a review of the rock and metal albums I picked up in 2017, the releases from 2017, and also a competition entry for Vinylyzer's 500 subs competition. Um, so he asked 5 questions. I'm going to try and rework the one of the questions about best album, making that a little bit more long-winded, and just do a quick review of the 27 releases that I picked up this year. Um, they're in no particular order apart from number one. When I say number one, that'll basically kick off the Vinylizer competition entry. So let's dive in. So this doesn't go on for too long. First up, I didn't actually buy this one. This was a VCLT from Greg the Egg, Blackmore Rules. It's CJ Ramone's latest album. I think this is his third studio album. Saw CJ and his band in Edinburgh this year, and they were phenomenal. I saw Richie Ramone as well, but the CJ gig was definitely better from a sort of a more rounded, just fun performance. On here, we clearly hear Ramone's influenced songs, but also his own material as well is top notch. So if you are a Ramones fan, I think you will thoroughly enjoy this album. As I say, it's not a Ramones ripoff at all, but clearly heavily influenced, and that's American Beauty. Next up, Deadlord, In Ignorance We Trust. I loved the first Deadlord album. This one has taken me a little while to get into it because I'm kind of holding it up to the first album a little bit too much. So I kind of need to work on this one a bit more. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It is a really good album. It's just that the first Deadlord was one of my favorite albums of recent times. So this is In Ignorance We Trust. So I have Elder, Reflections of a Floating World. Picked this up from the Elder gig. Again, saw them in Edinburgh this year. This is a heavy album. It's a double album. There's only 5 tracks on it, so gives you an indication of the length of the songs that are on here. Elder is kind of psychedelic stoner doom rock. I love them live, thoroughly enjoy them live, but I have to be in the right mood to listen to the studio albums. It's just a little bit different. But other than that, it's a fantastic release with great artwork. Havoc. Lots and lots of people have been showing this year and basically giving it a big thumbs up. Took me a while to pick it up. Came with a CD as well, which I love it when vinyl releases come with CDs. I listen to a lot of stuff on the move. I like to rip the CD and be able to just hear it outside of home as well. It's one of those 3-sided albums with an etching, which it kind of bugs me. I don't know why. It's I just prefer either a full double album or a single album. But it is Havoc are a modern thrash metal band. I'm not a fan of a lot of the modern thrash metal. I think thrash metal kind of had its main scene, and there's a lot of copycats out there. But I think Havoc do enough to keep my interest. They're bands like Havoc and Gamma Bomb. I think hold their own in the thrash metal market today. This is Conformicide. If you take lyrics to heart and you're quite religious, or you're a big fan of the current American administration, then maybe this album's not for you. But the music is fantastic. Mothership. I would have loved to have seen these guys live this year. I was on a holiday or a work trip in the States when they played Edinburgh. A friend of mine got this one signed for me, but it doesn't make up for the disappointment of having missed them. Not as good, I don't think, as the previous album, but still an excellent release, and happy to add this to my collection this year. Mothership are stoner rock band, and this is High Strangeness is the name of the album. Mithra, another band that I saw live and picked up this album at their gig and got the guys to sign it. They are a new wave of British heavy metal band, nothing traditional about them. Um, they supported Night Demon in Edinburgh this year. Have to admit, hadn't heard of them before. They do have an album out, or at least a collection that they'd of demos what have you that they released in back in I think 1979. Yes, they're riding the crest of the wave of the resurgence of the traditional metal sound, but this is a great album. It's all brand new tracks, and they were really good live. Thoroughly recommend. Mithra is on High Roller, and this is Still Burning. As I mentioned, Mithra were supporting Night Demon. Night Demon, one of the newer traditional metal bands. Darkness Remains is their second album. Again, picked this up on the when I saw them at Bannerman's this year. This was their first ever UK gig. Really disappointing that there's only about 30, 35 or so of us in the crowd, so I really hope it doesn't put them off coming back. But they absolutely killed it. Brilliant live. And thoroughly recommend this album. I don't own a physical copy of their first album. I listened to it a few times on YouTube prior to going to the gig, but I have to say that I kind of do prefer this one to the first one, but hope to pick that one up maybe sometime this year. Now, next up was certainly my most anticipated album of the year, and one without hearing it I thought would be my number one of the year, but it isn't. It's so this is Ram Rod. This is what their fifth or sixth studio album. This is a European release on flame splattered vinyl, limited to 200 copies. It's a really good album, but I don't think it's as good as Subversive or Lightbringer or Forced Entry or Death, some of the earlier stuff. It is really good though, just not as good. I don't know if it's because, I mean, the second side is kind of it's kind of like a mini concept album on the second side. There's 7 parts. Not all of them are musical. They're kind of a few sort of voiceovers to tie the story together. I don't know if that distracts from how that good this album could be or not, but yeah, not as good as the earlier ones, but still a great release from Ram. I'm very happy I got that one. A band I wear a lot on my videos. Steak is not this album. Oh, don't you love a wrong amble pull? It is this one. There is No God to Save. So this is Slab City. This was their their first full-length album from about 2015, I think. And this is their follow-up, No God to Save. This is their first release on a major label, should we say. So they moved on to Ripple and released this one. And it is really good stoner rock. Excellent stuff. I hope they come back to Edinburgh and play, because I saw them live last year and they were awesome. And the last but one is the follow-up to Nasty by Nature. This is Twisting the Blade by Stereo Nasty. Again, great traditional metal. The first album, Nasty by Nature, I loved. I found that out through the VC, and I know that other people then went on after I showed it. I think Rene was the first person that showed it, which introduced me to Stereo Nasty, and I know others picked up on these when I showed it as well. So there's a lot of good synergy going on in the VC. But Twisting the Blade, it's a very good release. There are one or two tracks on here which sound like they could have come off the first album. Certainly the first track, Kill or Be Killed. I did wonder when I'd heard that song if I'd actually put on the first album by accident, but there's enough good songs on here in their own right. I mean, Kill or Be Killed is a great song, but it just sounds like it's come straight off the first album. So I don't know if that's one they played safe and put it as the first track on the album, or maybe one or two tracks here they had left over from the first album. I don't know, and I don't really care, to be honest with you. It's a really, really good album. And this was on blue vinyl on Diabolic Might Records. Twisting the Blade. And a good link in now. So I'm going to move on to the second part of this video, which is really covering John Vinylizer channel's 500 subs competition. Congratulations, John, on reaching that. I know you're nearly at 600 now. And your first, well, it wasn't your first question, but one of your questions was best album from 2017. And so all those were contenders. Actually bought less this year than previous years, although I don't think I actually bought too few. But my favourite release that I picked up this year was Satan's Hallow, and this is just superb. Again, it's traditional metal. It's female-fronted vocals. Underground Power Records. It was really difficult to get hold of, only limited pressings of these, but I actually heard about this band through the guitarist. So I bought in my top list last year, I talked about a CD I had by a band called Lethal Shock, and Lethal Shock, and when I was buying this, which was the vinyl repressing, or the first vinyl pressing of the album, this first came out in 2017, but is a 2016 release. The guitarist Steve Bodette was he did the interactions on Bandcamp when I was asking if he can get it signed or what have you, and he said, you know, have you heard about my other band, Satan's Hallow? And so I went on Bandcamp, listened to it. I was hooked straight away. Absolutely killer traditional metal, let's say, with a really good female-fronted vocals as well. Really killer album. It'll be on YouTube. Check them out. This is a band to watch, and we'll hopefully release something else again this year or next year, and not this year. Only like 2 days left. Be a rush job. So yeah, so that's my number one pick for albums from 2017. Next up was best song. Now I'm kind of struggling with this one because I don't really listen to individual songs. I tend to listen to an album from start to finish. So one song that did grab my mind is on one of the albums I showed earlier, and that is Gulag on Ramrod. Sure, I don't think it's actually the best song. It's probably not the best song on the album, but it's a song that's really catchy, and I could get out of my head for ages. So I'm gonna pick that one because I don't really think about, or singles and things don't spring to mind as much as albums do. I tend to remember a whole album rather than individual singles. Long-winded ass answer to quite a short and easy question. So that best re-release of 2017. That's easy for me. That was the Iron Maiden Complete Albums Collection box set from this year. With all these goodies in. I am and on about whether I would actually invest in all of this, but I knew that if I didn't get them all, I would end up with a box that wasn't full, and I would regret it. So I saved my pennies and picked these up on the release dates, and I've still not had a chance to listen to them all yet. So that's something I'm going to do in 2018, is catch up on a little bit of my back catalogue. I've got quite a stack up there that I've yet to show on the VC, so I'm probably going to calm down my buying. You heard it here, folks. certainly in the early part of next year, and just start to enjoy a little bit more about what I've got. Um, I pull out albums occasionally. I think I can't even remember what that sounds like. I want to try and get back into revisiting my collection and enjoying what I have. But so in terms of 2017 issues, well, the box is empty because once I put changed the inner sleeves to anti-static and put on covers for each of the covers, it was quite a squeeze in here. So I have them on a shelf just down there for easy access, and I'm going to find somewhere to put this so it doesn't get warped or out of shape. But there we go, another long-winded answer to what my favourite reissue was of 2017. Next up, favourite band of 2017, regardless of whether they've released anything or not. I'm going to have to go with Iron Maiden again. May seem a bit of an obvious answer for people who watch my channel, but this year was I managed to tick a grail off the list and get to see them live for the first time. I think I surprised a lot of people a few months back when I mentioned, talked about the gig, and I put a video on with some highlights from the Glasgow gig. Thoroughly enjoyed that and kind of really dived headfirst into Maiden again and listened to a lot of their albums again this year. And seeing them live was just a dream come true for me. It was the gig of all gigs. Wish I'd seen them in the heyday. I did get chances. I didn't take them up, but I'm glad I've seen them while they're still a relevant band and not a tribute to themselves, as a lot of older bands have become. So finally, best find of 2017. I picked up a lot of records in 2017, some good, some not so good. I bought a lot of stuff online as well, which tends to sort of be cheap if I bundle things up, get cheaper postage. But so I've not counted anything that I've picked up online, because I kind of see best find as being something that I've come across while digging in the wild, and to me that was easily this copy of Defenders of the Faith, Judas Priest. And I picked this up recently in I can't remember the name of the shop. I was on. My sister-in-law lives in Houston, and we went out to see her. We went to a place called Space City Audio, and I had a bit of a dig there. They were only just reopened after the hurricane this year, so they ripped out all the carpets because they all got a bit wet, but they were open. I had a bit of a dig in there, and this was the top find for me. And looking back at everything I've picked up while digging in record shops by myself rather than online, I would say that this is my best find of 2017. There we go. I'm going to keep this under 20 minutes. Congratulations, John, on your 500s. There will be a link below, and all that leaves me to say is wish everybody a happy new year. I hope you have a good one, and wish you all the best with your digging in 2018. Cheers.